Well, welcome everybody. This is our new format for our long building technologies coffee breaks. We have found that it's a little bit more effective for us to pre-record these little information sessions, podcasts, whatever you want to call them, with industry-leading experts. And today we're kind of doing something different. I have asked Tim Vogel, the director of IoT over at KMC Controls, who I would consider an industry-leading expert on the rollout of the IoT, various IoT platforms across the country, with KMC. And I've asked him to kind of come in and chat with me a little bit and get a better idea of what he sees in the IoT market, what the world looks like a little bit, and with that, I'm really just going to ask Tim some questions. Tim, do you want to give a quick rundown on what your background looks like, and then we can kind of get off and running?
Absolutely. So my name's Tim Vogel. I'm the director of IoT, KMC Controls. My primary responsibility is our KMC Commander platform and everything that goes along with that when it comes to smart buildings and integration partners and all kinds of new channels, how we can go to market. There's lots and lots of different customers out there that have a lot of different needs. And when you say smart building, they kind of each think of them differently. So it's just a matter of kind of bringing it all together and saying, like, here's how we could help and here's how we can contribute. I first joined KMC in 2016. I was their marketing manager, started doing videos and blogs, and a lot of it too was around the messaging for KMC Commander. At the time, it was just a couple years old. We had gone through a couple iterations. We were really digging deep into our partnership with Intel and Dell at the time, and so I got to learn a lot about how they're approaching their IoT strategies and how we can then take our 50 years of experience with KMC, apply it to the technology and partnerships that they were bringing to the table, and ultimately that led us to where we are now. I did a short little stint with an industrial pump and valve manufacturer where I learned a lot about industrial automation,
Sure.
which in
Sure.
a lot of ways is similar to building automation, just at a different scale and a different kind of compute power that's associated with that. But taking even that knowledge and applying it to smart buildings and the whole ecosystem has been extremely valuable. So it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the conversation is.
Yeah, I really do appreciate you coming on out and joining me today. Really quick, how many buildings have you rolled out KMC Commander to now?
I believe we are about to crest the 1,000 mark.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's,
we've grown tremendously this year. The last couple years, you talk about kind of exponential growth. That's what we're
sure.
beginning to see, and just in time for a chip shortage. So it's
Uh,
exciting. Yeah, I mean, there's again, as soon as you start bridging all these different industries, and I mean, even the controls industry is
well,
seeing this.
controls,
This
the
yeah,
auto
it's
industry. I mean, all those
it's
cars are
everywhere.
nowadays are just giant microchip devices. So, in your opinion, when you look out at the country right now and the world of technology, what does the smart building landscape look like to you right now?
Uh, you know, I see it from a couple different angles. I think you have the old guard, if you will, the people that have run the building industry, if not in just North America, worldwide, and
Sure.
I see in a lot of ways they're still trying to do business as usual. In some of those cases, like the manufacturing and equipment teams, they're producing incredible pieces of machinery and then they're relying on the controls people of past to kind of come up with ways to bring that into the smart building ecosystem, whether it's to the cloud or localized, whatever it is.
I think of
And
like
it's
the
when
JCIs and the Siemens of the world, the
right.
big equipment manufacturers, and they're trying to bridge that gap between equipment and technology. And yeah,
Absolutely. And it's really tricky because as soon as you start getting into the prop tech world, it's very fragmented. I mean, you have anything from these siloed little systems that can be put in and they do this one particular thing, but they don't interact with anything else. Or you have, a hundred different visualization tools,
sure,
but they don't have they don't have the interaction with the building that you would like to see a lot of times. They're just, dashboards, and there's lots of very pretty dashboards that can be created. But it's the interacting with the building itself, right? Interacting with that data, making sure that you can make sense of it, And then you have a lot of video camera companies I've seen that are trying to become like this operating system for the building, but they don't know anything about
Sure.
HVAC. And then you have analytics companies that, in a large regard, do a lot of the same things, just kind of differently. And then you have some kind of new innovative guys that are really coming in and trying to use as much analytics or machine learning, whatever it may
Right.
be, to drive that. But you're not seeing this kind of one standard. This is the thing that's going to bring all these things together with the latest and greatest technology across every
Right.
vertical. So it's very, very fragmented.
That is like the biggest can of worms. When you start talking about IoT technology and different building technologies, every spoke on the wheel wants to be the central hub, right? Everybody wants to say they can integrate their piece of machinery into a central hub. And after a while, you've got a building that's got 4 or 5 different quote unquote hubs, and none of them are really talking to each other. They might all speak BACnet, but I mean, BACnet's just a communication protocol.
Right. Right.
So when we talk about IoT technology and this open protocol, I mean, what does that mean for, say, the typical building out there? We might not necessarily talk about the 40-story high rises, but the average building across the country. What does this mean?
So I think there's a lot of vendors out there. KMC, we've put out a ton of content around, what does it take to kind of make a smart building? And one of those things, just like you said, is interoperability. And when you
Yeah.
sit back and look at interoperability, that is kind of your first check mark when you're trying to choose each of these individual solutions. Because at the end of the day, building owners have more choice than they've ever
Yeah.
had before. I
Yep.
mean, like, I could use this for this. I could use this analytics platform. I could use these controls. I could use this IoT platform. And that's kind of where then our product, right? Selfish plug, that's where our product
Sure.
comes in. It's like we want to sit on top of nearly any system that's out there, leverage our Niagara Tritium partnership
Mm-hmm.
whenever we can to get some of those proprietary protocols that,
Sure.
people are holding on
You get the
tightly
drivers and
to.
the JACEs, and
That's
you can
right.
pull those in as well. Yep.
But then bring that into a native cloud that now you can push that data to any of these other solutions or property tech, prop tech vendors that you want to. And that's where, again, we the hub and spoke model, right? Everybody wants to be the hub. We've so
Yeah.
focused on interoperability and our open API that we feel like we are the best hub, which is what everyone would say. But again,
Yeah. Yeah.
show me the interoperability and that documented API and how you're actively promoting a number of partners in the space. And I
Yeah.
think that's where we're really differentiating. But at the end of the day, it's all about choice, and the end user really gets to drive what they want in their smart building solution.
Well, I know I'm a little bit biased towards KMC's Commander platform. I do actively go to market with this platform, and I think it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, and I almost think of it as an operating system. You're running these buildings, and you're able to visualize all sorts of information. It's pretty slick. Something you brought up though is the cloud, right? I know everybody's got their own definition of the cloud these days, and it's one of those buzzwords, and it almost feels like everything is eventually going to move to the cloud. So with that comes some pretty obvious security concerns. Just today, as I'm logging onto my banking app, I realized that Chase Bank is just down, just just down. I mean, their debit cards don't work, nothing works. So you almost wonder, like, are they a victim of a ransomware attack, whatever it might be, when there's no statements being made. I'm curious. I don't think the 1 and 2 story building owners, the single building owners, in the grand scheme of things, need to worry too much. But for those out there that are maybe larger property management firms that have 30, 40, 50 buildings under management, when we talk about communicating with the cloud and opening things up, how does KMC solve the issue of security in these buildings?
So security has to be paramount when you're talking about cloud connectivity. And you're not just talking about pushing a bunch of data up into a dashboard. You're talking about being able to control things. You're talking
Right.
about comfort, safety, all of that. And
Yeah.
so we've always tried to focus on security, and we're driving security in everything that we do as often as we can. We just started down the road of a SOC 2 Type 2 certification, which is huge, which helps document what our processes are going to be on the back end with how we handle data, how we handle our platform, and all that. So that's kind of like the first thing. Security is a priority for us and always has been. Second is lots of BAS systems in the field are going to say that they're cloud-based or internet-based or web-enabled. And typically what that means is that they could serve up an HTML page that you could access from anywhere you give it
Sure.
access, right?
Sure.
So we're talking VPNs, opening up firewalls, basic credentials to get into kind of a specific port. And what happens then is, regardless of user access, you're giving, or user permissions rather, you're giving that user access to the BAS directly. What Commander does is we sit on top of the BMS as it is, and that gateway that we install communicates to the BAS, but all your interaction is with a
Outbound.
truly cloud-based
Yeah.
native cloud platform. And so everything you do is not interacting directly on or
Sure.
even running on the hardware that's the controllers or whatever it may be. The gateway initiates all that communication. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we talk to IT all the time. And
Yeah.
there's many times the little saying, the quip, if you will, that I'd like to say is, many times IT has been a foe in the morning and an
Yeah.
advocate come afternoon, because they see how we're doing it. They see how we're communicating. We're not asking for any inbound ports. It's outbound communication only. And we're putting in a box that largely they understand. There's an
Right.
Intel chip inside from a Dell or from Advantech. We could talk about our partnerships all day long. We could talk about how we prioritize and make sure that 98% of what you do is in the cloud. If the cloud
Sure.
ever gets hacked, there's no means to tunnel into the network itself.
I almost
Um,
think of it like, you think about online banking or like online bill pay. When you initiate a bill pay from your bank, they are sending a physical check, oftentimes from your bank account to that company or to the credit card company or whatever it might be,
right.
rather than authorizing an automatic payment from the credit card company and giving them your account information.
Yep.
You're initiating that.
It's this element of proxy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing this directly, but I could still interact. I
Right.
could still transact, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and so making sure that we are working with IT, we're not hiding from IT, we're not saying we don't want anything to do with you, IT, we're actively engaging. And then lastly is, and this kind of goes back to our interoperability, we our core strategy is collaboration and working together in the IoT space. And there are some excellent security vendors that are currently out there and up and comers that our system can work directly with, whether it's securing the backnet network itself or helping you monitor not only your IT networks, but your OT networks as well.
Sure.
So by bringing in additional vendors like that, communicating with them through Commander, and taking this more holistic approach for the end user, that just goes to show even further that we're not all things to all people. We're going to go partner with the best people in the industry so that you ultimately have a choice of who you get to work with.
Yeah. I like that. So I'm gonna ask a question. So what do you say to Johnny Property Manager who's got, say, a portfolio of 30 buildings? And they're anywhere from your 10,000 square foot small building to a 200,000 square foot larger building, multi-story high rise. Or I guess it'd probably be higher or smaller than that. But anyway, so they've got 30 properties. What is the benefit of having an IoT platform like this? I mean, what is, in your opinion?
Absolutely. So if you have multiple buildings, the very first thing is we're going to standardize the means by which you can monitor and interact with those buildings. So we'll put a gateway in each one. It'll communicate to the same cloud. You log in with the same credentials. You get a similar interface, and it's all very easily switchable, whether a drop-down menu where you're selecting your multiple locations,
Sure.
or you have a map and you're looking at the pins and you're selecting what you want, right? I mean, that's kind of that's the first benefit of the cloud.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
now
that's
you're
it.
not managing multiple team viewer accounts or trying to remember what your VPN login is for this
Right.
building when it's different from this building. And chances are pretty good you don't all have the same, or they don't all have the same controls inside of them. And so being able to
Yeah.
standardize that, here's another sales cliche, on one single pane of glass, right? But the biggest thing is, how do I standardize my
Yeah.
interface?
Yeah.
That's what because that's what people ultimately want, is how can I make this as easy and seamless across whatever controls platform I'm using? And
Right.
that's where we don't come in and to replace. You don't have to do that rip and replace. You could just say, put this on top, augment what's already there, what's already doing its job,
Sure.
and
Sure.
then we're off and running. And then kind of that next thing then is partnering with those vendors that are going to take you from just your visualizations, schedules, trends, and alarms, then taking it to that point of, now how can I save energy? How could I better monitor the health of the equipment to do fault detection and diagnostics? How can I possibly put something in that's just going to give my vendor better access, like long building technologies, better access into the building so that they could
Right.
serve
Right.
better, so they can get the alarms that they need in a single kind of location. So you get better service, you get better data, better visualization. And I mean,
Well, I mean,
that's
you
just
can't beat
kind of the
that.
beginning of the whole IoT world.
Well, that's the idea of the IoT, being able to integrate anything that has an API that you can talk to into the system. I know, we're working on a project with you guys where we are going to be integrating a work order management system into this platform. And the idea is that, if an alarm goes off or something happens on one of the points that's being monitored in the Commander platform, it sends an automatic notification to the work order management system, and thus sends it to the engineer that's on site or on call to say, hey, you got to go out and check this out. Somebody get on there and see what's going on. So that's some pretty cool stuff. I mean, you're really only limited by how creative you can be, right? I mean,
Exactly. Yeah, you're
it's
only
cool
limited
stuff.
by your imagination. That's exactly right.
So next steps. Okay, so let's say a building owner watches this little video and they think this is pretty cool. Wow, I'd sure like to buy that. So, so where do they start? I mean, what's the game plan? Like, how do they even go about putting in this big fancy IoT platform on this building?
Right. Well, the first thing you do is you call Cameron.
Oh,
Cameron's going to get you set up. Yeah. But I like to use the phrase, start big, or I'm sorry, plan big, start small, and scale fast, right? And the whole idea there is, like, ultimately at the end of the day, let's say 5 years from now, what do you want your smart building to look like? What do you want it to do, right? And that's where you throw all the ideas out there, put it up on a chart, on a
sure,
whiteboard, whatever it is, just get an idea. It's like, this is where I want to be, and then start small. Okay, step one, how do we do some basic integration? How do I get into the system that I already have, right? Just evaluate your current setup so you know where you want to go, you know where you are, and then put in that system that's going to kind of take that first step. And that's where Commander really, really, it fits really well.
yeah,
Go in, if you have a small application, even a larger application,
it
go in,
scales so well. It really does.
put exactly. So you put it on top, and then you get that visualization and remote. And now all that data just automatically starts logging, and it's stored long term, and it's all in the cloud. And you could do with it whatever you want. You could download a CSV file, or
Sure,
now you can go and start that conversation with an analytics partner or whatever. So
yeah,
really, it just comes down to put something in that's scalable. And not only is Commander scalable from a technology standpoint and capability, but it's so affordable for
yeah,
what you're trying to do. I mean, we talk about OT and IT, so operational technology, your HVAC, your building systems, and IT, the cloud, the network, your infrastructure,
sure,
security. Those are colliding, they're coming together, and they're meshing. And Commander is one of those ways that, in a very affordable way, you kind of start to bridge that gap,
yeah,
and then you just build on top of it, scale fast. So you have that end goal in mind. You've got your small, application, or you got Commander built in, and the data's starting to flow, and it's available, and you're seeing it all on your phone or your tablet.
sure,
And then you go to that next step of, all right, let's put our data to work, and let's really start squeezing the sponge of the ROI for what's available in our building.
That's awesome. Tim, I appreciate you, sitting down with me today virtually. I know in this crazy world, but I really do thank you. Tim Vogel, Director of IoT, you're more than welcome to reach out to Tim or myself if you have any questions. I'm sure this won't be the last time that we chat or do something like this, and I really do appreciate you coming on board with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cameron.
All right, thank you.